scratch paper, write down the word permutation. We're going to learn about permutations. It's kind of like permanent mutation, but it's not related to that at all. Okay. Let's say I take 3 letters like the ABC that you've got up there. You could write those in different ways, like CBA or BAC. I'd like you to write out all the combos, please. Don't say them, write them on your scratch paper. And I'll pause the video while you do that. So, how many did you find? 6. 6 is a good number. Like, for instance, ABC. What else you got? Let's do this in a somewhat reasonable, like, logical way. What would be next? ACB. Now what? BAC. BCA. I like the organization. CAB. CBA. All right. So now those combos, those are all different than each other because the order matters. That's, if you're going to write something next to permutation, please write order matters, because that's as opposed to the other thing that we're going to be doing, which is combinations where order does not matter. All right, so this is really important that you get that order matters here. All right, now how could you have figured out that there would be 6 things? Well, I think of it this way. There were 3 places for letters, 3 spots. This spot, and this spot. And for that first spot, how many choices did you have of letters you could have put there? 3. Then how many choices did you have for the next spot? 2. And for the last spot, 1 choice. It's like an election in Russia, where you have an election, but there's only one person's name on the ballot. So you get a choice of this guy or nobody, I guess. Anyway, that's the way it was in Russia for a long time. I'm sure it's gotten better. Okay, 3 times 2 is 6, times 1 is 6, so there's my answer, 6. All right. If I'm going to figure out how many permutations there are for, let's say, 7 letters, how many different combos there are, you wouldn't want to have to list them, right? So use the method I just showed you. Please figure out, if I had 7 letters, how many different combos could there be? So some people are already done because they're really speedy. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And how many choices do I have for that first spot? 7. Now, does anybody know how to do this faster on your calculator than typing them all in? Ooh, somebody knows. Yes. Not nearly that complicated, but there is a way to do it that's kind of related. Yes? Ooh, yes. 7 factorial, it's called. Now, I'll show you where that button is. You might use it a few times in tonight's homework. Everybody grab your graphing calculator. You'll need it for tonight's homework anyways. I think that you guys, this is seriously only 2 buttons in, so I don't need to pull up my graphing calculator. It takes too long. I'll show you just verbally. No, actually, don't use those. Actually, you can use that one. And then you can use this one. It's fine. Okay, so I'm never going to make it in one 10-minute video today, so that's okay. I'm going to have 2 10-minute videos. All right, 7 factorial. The button is found, well, first of all, let's type in the number 7. Because you need that in first before you hit the factorial. If you do the factorial button first, it won't work. Okay, so type in a 7. Now to find the factorial, it's under the math button. And then underneath that, what do you think? Take a guess. Probability. Where is that? It's over PRB. It's like 4 spots over. Okay, so get to probability, and now you will see it. Okay, so that was under math, and then probability, PRB, and then it's the like 4th thing down or something. You got 7 factorial is 5040. Raise your hand if you had that correct. Okay, good. Now you know how to do factorials. Now, let me just ask you to think about this question. If I had 6 calculators, which I do, sitting on the front desk that you guys can see here, and there's also pictures of them on my smartboard there. If I have 6 calculators out, and they're numbered 1 through 6, but they're not necessarily in order, I'd like you to figure out psychically which order they're in right now and write it down. Like if you think it starts with a 6, it might be 6, 4, 1, 5, 2, 3, etc. Figure out what order they're in right now. All right, now, this is pretty much a random thing, meaning that you didn't have much chance of guessing it right. So you have a 1, there's only one combo like yours in however many total possibilities. It's what I want over what's possible. That's the definition of probability. And the thing I want, there's only one combo like that. And here it was, by the way. Yeah, what I had was 1, 2, 5, 4, 3, 6. You did not have that. Yeah, okay. So what I wanted was 1 out of how many combos were there? Well, how did you do this? You're right, it's 720. How did you do it again? 6 times 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1. Because there were 6 spots for calculators, just like what we just talked about. That's 6 factorial, which is, what is it again? 6 factorial? 720? Okay. So then it's 1 out of 720 was the probability that somebody would have guessed the one I had. All right. So let's move on. Before you see the next slide, I want you to remember there's 52 cards in a deck of cards. If I've got 3 of them on my next slide, and they're in order. Remember the order matters on these? They're in order. So I want you to see if you can guess the 3 cards that I have on my next slide. Okay, take your best guess. I'm going to pause for a second. Clarifying question somebody asked, you know, like, are we talking about just like Jack? Or no, I mean like Jack of Hearts, King of Spades, Queen of Diamonds, or whatever. Okay? Try to figure out the 3 cards that I have. Okay, and here is the next slide. Did anybody have King of Diamonds, Ace of Spades, Queen of Diamonds? All right. I'm guessing not. Now, let's figure out the probability you'd actually guess that. Would you agree there's only one set of 3 cards that's could come out exactly like that? Okay, it's only one. Out of how many different possibilities were there? Well, you go like this. There's 3 cards, right? So there's 3 spots. And you're going to be asking yourself this a lot on these homework problems. How many choices do I have for this first card? 52 cards in the deck times, once I've taken that card out, how many choices now? 51, and the last one, 50. 1 over, it's a very large number. 1, 3, 2, 6, 0, 0. So there was a 1 in 132,000 chance you guessed that right. No, nobody's guessed it right. All right. Next up, license plates. That's a real Minnesota license plate. I don't know if the person actually watching the video on YouTube would happen to be like, that's my license. What is the probability of that? Exactly. All right. Well, we're going to figure out how many possible license plates there are. Actually, it's even got 09 tabs on there. It makes sense that it would be expired. But anyways, this first one, I got how many choices for letters? Well, if you're using our alphabet, 26. There's 26 choices. You think there's a certain letter you can't use? All right. And you make a good point. Somebody said you can't use O's because why? They look like zeros, right? And the other thing is, if we're going to get really into it, you can't have certain combinations of letters, as you can imagine. All right, some of you figured out what I'm saying. So they take some of the possible combos out. We're going to not think about those things. All right. So we're I'm going to be pausing here and moving on to the next video to continue this on part 2.